Okay, this is going to be our last installment of the fashion history tour because I don't actually have anything from the 90s. So, welcome to the 1980s. I wanted to start by showing you this Gunny Sax here. This one I'm going to peg as probably a very early 80s Gunny Sax. It could be late 70s. This one is made of it's file, a synthetic, maybe acetate. We still see some of Jessica McClintock's signature ribbon and tucks here, puffed sleeves, but you can see we've kind of shifted into a little more of an 80s silhouette. We've got a dropped waist, we have increased shoulder emphasis, we've got this low neckline. Basically, when you're looking at women's silhouettes in the 1980s, you're looking at a V. You've got massive shoulder emphasis coming down to a narrower waist and bottom in most cases on the silhouette. So I'm going to show you a few of those. Next up, this is kind of my pride and joy. This is an Yves St. Laurent, which was donated to a church clothing closet, and they decided that I needed it more than the church clothing closet did. This was made for Bergdorf Goodman, dates from the 80s. It is a velvet top. It's got this bit of a puff sleeve here, a very long sleeve with actual metal zippers here in the sleeve, good quality. It's got a slit down the back, which I'll show you in a minute, and it comes down into this crazy skirt, a high-low hem, 2-inch horsehair. This thing weighs a ton. But you can see we've got this very long, slim 80s silhouette. Again, kind of this sort of V effect. You've got some big shoulder emphasis. It doesn't usually go in a lot at the waist in the 80s. We've got a little bit more of an unfitted sort of look, more so than we had in some of the 70s pieces. The waist has almost disappeared in some ways. So high-low hem, reinforced with horsehair. We have some really fantastic lame with eyelash and with a woven sort of trompe-l'oeil sort of lace effect woven into this fabric. And we've got a second layer. This also is lame. It is interfaced with something. It's got some substance to it. It's pretty heavy, helps this stand out, but it's kind of amazing to have the lame, 2 layers of lame on this dress. It comes down into as I said, a high-low hem. We've got a really large sweep happening on this dress. It's kind of awesome. So, really cool example from the 80s. Next, I want to show you this evening dress. This one is asymmetrical. The shoulders really clearly mark it as 80s. We're back to shoulder pads just as large as we had in the 40s, kind of repeated here in the 1980s. We've got some asymmetrical draping, again, a little bit reminiscent of that 40s evening dress we looked at, only this one's synthetic. It feels like nylon. It's got a narrow hem. Very typical 80s buttons, which also happen to look like 80s clip-on earrings with a large pearl in the center, shiny brass around the edge. We've got kind of this asymmetrical drape, a circular ruffle here. Still these flowy sleeves, which kind of remind us a little bit of the 30s. We've got this center back zipper, and the zipper is not hidden at all. It almost becomes a design feature with the ruching radiating out from the zipper. Moving on, one major part of the 80s, which started in the 70s, was ultra suede. The designer Halston, Roy Halston Frowick, Halston was really known for designing with ultra suede. He popularized it. It is a type of synthetic suede. I believe it's made of polyester. This is an example of it right here. It's very, very soft. It feels nice. It was pretty pricey too. We got pockets here. Again, we have some serious shoulders, and I'm going to take this off to show you. This one was courtesy of the thrift store in my hometown. I paid all of $2.50 for it. This is a Samuel Robert jacket, and you can see these shoulder pads are rounded and they're really large. They go almost from the neckline over the shoulder in a curve, and you get some serious shoulders with this jacket. It is a power jacket. So moving on from this jacket, I wanted to show you a blouse. This is pretty typical of the kind of blouse that would have been worn for workwear or in some cases for church in the 1980s. Again, shoulder pads. Very, very large shoulder pads. So if you see shoulder pads plus synthetic, most likely you're looking at 80s. This little standing collar here with a large button is typical, as is the covered placket. To access the buttons, they're hidden in this extra placket here, so it's an invisible closure, and you've got these large tucks. Again, a very, very loose fitted garment. The 80s went big and loose in a lot of cases. The last dress that I want to show you for the 80s is, believe it or not, another Jessica McClintock Gunny Sax. Unfortunately, Gunny Socks really had its heyday with the calico lace and ribbon sort of aesthetic. They did that better than anyone. And when fashions shifted away from that, they tried to shift too, but lost the signature style, kind of diluted and got lost among everything else. But here's a little piece. I'm guessing this one is late 80s. We've got a sheer, asymmetrical, gathered overlay. We've got this dropped waist. We got wild sequins. Basically, the motto of the 80s in fashion was pretty much, if a little bit's good, a whole lot's better. And we see that in 80s interior design. We see it in 80s fashion. A lot of it is very, very over the top. So, little strapless dress, Jessica McClintock Gunny Sax. The back of it, it's feels like a file or taffeta here, synthetic, and we've got a side zipper. So coming back to the side zipper, McClintock did take some care with this one in concealing the opening. So this concludes our video series on fashion history showing garments from my collection. I hope you enjoyed it.